Hey, what's up everyone? JJ here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to look at the new LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean Captain Jack Sparrow ship, the Black Pearl. In this video, we'll take a look, of course, at the minifigures, all the different components of the build, and I'll kind of talk about what are the parts that are my favorite and most detailed. Obviously, I think a big point of contention with this set is the price point, and in general, LEGO has been kind of scaling upwards with pricing. I will say one of my initial concerns with this set was the 380 price point when I saw kind of the leaked images, even though the images on lego.com website, but after building it, I'm actually really satisfied. For me, I didn't want either of the give with purchases. It came with, I think it's sold out now, but I got the Jack Sparrow's compass, as well as the Sonic the Hedgehog Sega Genesis game controller. I was able to sell those for just under $100, and so it definitely brought the price point of this set into a much more reasonable threshold for me. But all in all, I'm really happy with this set. I went to the Lego store with the intention of just looking at it and not buying it. I was actually going to buy the Going Merry from One Piece because I've been really into One Piece the last couple weeks. And then I saw the build and I was just really floored. It's a lot larger in person than I thought it would be, and I'm going to do my best to kind of get different camera angles. I will kind of show you the 2023 Durmstrang Harry Potter ship, just to show you a similar, well, no, this is so much bigger, to show you another ship that you might be more familiar with. But let's jump right in now and take a look at the Jack Sparrow ship, the Black Pearl. Alrighty, here we see set 10365. This set is Captain Jack Sparrow's pirate ship. It's not officially being called the Black Pearl, but of course, looking at this set, that's exactly what this is. And of course, comes with a build for the Black Pearl. There's a little bit of a stand included, as well as 9 minifigures. This set retails for $379.99 in the US, and it has 2,862 pieces. So right away, you're noticing the price to piece ratio seems a little bit off. You would have expected for a $380 set for this to be definitely in the 3,000 pieces for the set. So it definitely seems off in that regard. In general, LEGO prices have been skewing upwards. I was initially thrown off by the price of this. After the build, I was much happier. It is a really, really nice set. But we're going to talk about that price a little bit more as we explore, the various detailings of this set. Now, this set only comes with one instruction booklet, and that's because for the most part, the build is, pretty linear in terms of the bottom of the ship, and you're kind of building upwards. So you don't really have the ability to have multiple people working on either different parts of the build, because you have to build on top of what you already have. There'll be some discrepancy with that, and we'll talk about that when we look at the base here a little bit. But for the most part, that's kind of the way we see the build moves forward with this set. Like I said, this set comes with 9 minifigures, so let's take a look at those 9 minifigures now. Of course, we have Captain Jack Sparrow, and there you can see him holding his sword as well as his compass. And overall, I really like this minifigure. The initial renderings, the leaked images, he didn't look great, but the face print is much stronger than we saw originally. I like the kind of the hair and hat combo. I think there's good detailing there with the white and the red embellishments. I like the torso printing as well as the leg printing. Unfortunately, we don't see leg printing on a ton of these characters. For me, the dual molding of the legs was really necessary, and here we can see some of the back printing. And you can see the alternate face print with the hairpiece. It's really necessary for the hairpiece, although it doesn't, without the hairpiece, it doesn't quite look like Jack Sparrow to me, but once you put the hairpiece on, it looks more. This alternate face print, something seems a little off to me, but overall, I like the figure. Johnny Depp is really known for lots of kooky and fun facial expressions, so it would have been cool if we got a bunch of different facial expressions for Jack Sparrow. So I'm hopeful that we see more smaller Pirates of the Caribbean sets in the future. Next up here is Elizabeth Swann. I will start off by saying that's not my favorite hairpiece for female minifigures. It does seem a bit light. It would have been cool if it was kind of a darker brown with some, printed lighter blonde streaks in the hair, I think, but overall it works. Really like the facial expression and the face print there. And I'm really happy with the detailing on the torso as well as on the skirt piece. I think all minifigures at this point, especially in a collector's set like this, should have leg printing, but I think it's especially necessary for skirt printing because the skirt piece kind of feels off to me if there's no printing to match the torso. And I quite like her alternate facial expression, kind of the angry, it really fits the character well, which I like. And I like the torso printing there on the back as well. Lots of really nice gold embellishments with this minifigure. I do wish the printing for the skirt had continued onto the back. I thought that really would have elevated this character. But all in all, I think it's a pretty solid inclusion with this set. Next up, we see the minifigure for Will Turner. I think there's really good detailing here on the torso. That's probably my favorite part of this figure, there with the belt as well as the collar. I always tend to like when the sleeves of a minifigure, the arms are a different either color or printing than the torso itself, and so the white there works well for me. I think the face print actually looks quite nice, and I like the hairpiece they chose for this character. Again, for this price point, I really would just like to see an increase in the number of leg printings we have for these minifigures. All in all, I like the alternate facial expression. Again, similar to Jack Sparrow, something seems a little off about it, but I'm happy that they continued the torso printing here for the back. And if you're unfamiliar with the hairpiece, here's what it looks like from the back. I think it works really well for this character. Next up is Hector Barbosa, and this is a really nice character. I love the kind of hat hair molded together, and I like the black feather as well. You can't tell too much from the lighting here, but the torso and legs is actually kind of a silver sheen to the printing, so it looks quite nice. I like his accessory and sword there, and this is a figure that really needed the printing to continue from the torso to the legs to make him stand out, so I was really happy with that. Of course, we can see the alternate torso printing here on the back, and we can also see kind of, the hat hair piece. You can see more detailing here with the back of the hat. And of course, he has just an amazing alternate face print. Really works well for this character. I'm very, very happy with this. They could have gone a little in a few different directions, but I think this works really well, and I'm really happy to have this character in my minifigure collection. Next up is Gibbs, and again, I really like the torso printing. I think they did a really good detailed job with, I think, almost all of the characters come with this set with the torso printing. I just wish that level of detailing would have continued to the legs. In fact, I would have given up back torso printing if we get more leg printing with some of these figures. Looking at the face print, I really like kind of the side smirk. This is Jack Sparrow's first mate, so I think kind of the annoyed, angry facial expression works, as does the more neutral expression that he has here. Next up is Anna Maria, looking for a new ship. I really like the minifigure. I like her inclusion as well to kind of have some of these minor characters to kind of fill this really large ship build. Again, not my favorite hairpiece for female minifigures, but it also works. I do like the printing there. We'll look at that a little bit more detail on the torso without the hairpiece. In there, you can see some of the detailing. I think it looks really good, especially with the embellishments there with the buttons as well as the belt. And here we can see the more angry alternate facial expression, which again is fitting with her interactions with Jack Sparrow. And you can see the back torso printing kind of just carries on the similar design that we saw there on the front of the torso. Next up is Cotton. I do like the inclusion, of course, the parrot, since he's the one doing most of the talking. This is probably my least favorite torso printing, but it is still pretty detailed there, of course, with the necklace as well as the holes that you see in the white shirt. There isn't going to be an alternate face print for this character, but I really like kind of the bandana and that sand blue. I don't have a ton of that in my Lego collection, and I do like that the torso printing continues here on the back. And the 8th minifigure is Marty. I really like the printing there on his vest, really cool colors. And I also think there's great detailing with the keys as well as his necklace and belt. He is bald, so there's no alternate facial expression, and I am actually pretty disappointed with the back torso printing. I really wish we would have seen just a little bit more detailing, either from one of his necklaces or maybe somehow incorporate the belt. I know it's covered by the vest, so it doesn't necessarily make sense. It's just, the front is so good, I wish they could have found a way to spice this up a little bit. And of course, the last minifigure is actually going to be the angel that is at the front of the Black Pearl. I really like that this entire minifigure is in sand green, including that hairpiece. I think she has a very nice neutral facial expression. I think the printing both on the dress as well as the torso work. Feels a little bit Statue of Liberty, but I think that makes sense. And I really like the inclusion of this wing piece for this character at the front of the ship. Now we're going to take a look at the Black Pearl, the ship. In general, like I said, this was just a really fun build, really cool set. It really surpassed my expectations. It's much more massive, and not just in height, it's also massive in terms of, it's like 16 studs across. You can just fit a lot of minifigures, a lot of scenes on here. So I'm excited to show you kind of some of the detailing. All right, looking at the build, we are going to start here at the bottom or the base of the ship. One thing that is really neat and cool about this build, of course, is you can see the rounded bottom here. There are these two little brown holding sections to keep it from swaying back and forth. One thing that was really interesting about the build is right about here, So this section right here is kind of added towards the end, right before you put the flags on. So you start the build here and then kind of move up. And the reason why is this part has a flat surface. So you're able to kind of rest the ship down as you're adding all the additional parts. And here you can kind of see what I mean. You can see it's kind of right there. Overall, it just makes a really cool design, for this very rounded build. It just makes the ship feel a little bit more massive than I originally thought when I just looked at pictures on the internet. And here you can see what I mean. So this is the shape, a really cool, unique style of building, different than many of the other Lego ships or pirate ships I have in my collection. And just jumping down to see if we can get a little bit lower, just kind of really show that. And then we are moving here to the back of the ship. It looks really cool, but like I said, we are focusing here on the bottom. Of course, when you spin the ship's wheel, your first play feature, you can of course see kind of the rudder move back and forth, which is kind of neat. But I'm going to draw attention, of course, to these little knobs here. Of course, looking at the ship here from the front, or well, this is not the front. Looking at the ship here from the side, you can of course notice these cannons. And one of the cool play features is you can kind of move those in. And when you do that, you can see kind of the black flaps come down, which make the side look a bit more smooth. And so here you can see the side without the cannons coming out. Obviously, these black pieces, they rest a little bit up, and of course you can see the gray pieces underneath. But I think it's just a really fun play feature. You kind of can change the way that this is being displayed. I know some people don't love the cannons do that. I don't know if it's authentic to pirate ships. I'm not really sure, but in terms of a play feature on a display pirate ship Black Pearl in my Lego collection, I'm happy with it. And I also want to point out that as you're building this, definitely be really careful with the cannons and kind of how you're placing them. If it's off by a little bit, this play feature is going to be harder and harder to work. For me, the play feature got more smooth. So what I mean by that is the ability to turn this knob and for the cannons to come in and out. As I built more on top, it kind of forced the pieces into the exact spots with a good amount of, all the pieces were pushed fully down. I had to kind of finagle a few of the pieces to make sure they were fitting exactly as they were supposed to. And just as you build higher up, you really can't make it's harder to make the error. So I was happy about that because for a while I thought I had built something incorrectly. And we do see these cannons on both sides of the ship. Unfortunately, this side is less of a smooth in and out for me. As you can see, it's a little bit more of a struggle. So I'm gonna do some more investigating to kind of figure out which piece is kind of just off just a little bit that's causing this play feature not to be as smooth. And next, we're gonna look at just some of the detailing on the exterior or side of the pirate ship before we look at all the different interior elements. All right, again, looking here at the back, I really like the use of kind of some of these rounded pieces and some of the additional kind of detail they've included there on the sides. I feel like Lego, they did a good job, even though this set is almost exclusively made with black pieces, incorporating some brown pieces throughout to kind of just offer a little bit of a juxtaposition for some of the dimension and elements. And here you can see kind of all the different texture pieces that they're using as well, which just creates a little bit more texture. All right, here looking at the front of the ship, of course, on both sides, we do have this anchor build. We're gonna move that out of the way for just a moment because I really wanna focus on kind of this part right here. It just creates a really neat angle here for the front of the ship, which I hadn't realized. There's a really cool build technique, sorry, it was getting blurry, that was used there, and that looks really neat, really brings the mast here together. Similarly, I like kind of the use of kind of these pieces almost to serve as like a ladder or stairs. And then we're also going to see kind of some of these black pieces are going to be used to hold up some of these flags. And then I also like the inclusion of some of the flaps here also. Finally, I love kind of the captain's quarters here in the back, and we're going to take a look inside, but I think it looks really cool there with the way they did the windowing technique, as well as kind of the roof. And looking here at the back of the captain's quarters, I really like kind of the embellishments there and the lights they have there on the top. And this entire section can be removed. As you can see, it's kind of held on by those two clip pieces. And there's nothing crazy in here. Of course, we see some candles, a map. You're also gonna see a table or desk there with 2 chairs. So all in all, it's just kind of a fun area to display some of the minifigures. Of course, next up, like I said, here is the ship's wheel, which you can turn to move the rudder. I think it looks quite nice overall. Again, this just shows you how big this pirate ship is. There's so much standing room for lots of different figures around the wheel, here on the back above the captain's quarters. And that amount of space on the ship here is just going to continue, especially here, kind of this little lifeboat is completely removable, which of course just opens up the ship even more with additional areas for some of your characters to be standing to recreate or reenact some of the scenes from this film. Here we can see there is a barrel, which I put some of the extra minifigure accessories. Similarly, you know, small pieces, they often have duplicates, so we get lots of duplicate guns and swords. And I really like kind of the staircase build there up to the ship's wheel. Here we can see there is a cabinet or door, which you can open up just to reveal some bottles. That's one thing I thought was a little bit missing from this build, is additional bottles. Surprisingly though, one thing that is not missing from this build is gold. In fact, there are just a ton of gold pieces throughout this entire build, especially down there in the base. Pretty much anywhere that needed kind of a 1 or 2 stud brick that was not going to be shown on the exterior, they used a gold piece, which is really cool because it just kind of went with the pirate theme of just all the different gold hidden around this ship. And I showed you earlier, this small boat for Jack Sparrow can be removed. And the area of the ship it's sitting on is actually graded. You can see through a little bit, but it's even cooler, you can remove it completely. And here you can see what I mean. It's completely removed from the Black Pearl ship. And we can see a little bit inside. You can notice some of the cannons there as well. And there is gonna be a treasure chest. And inside we see a gold cup, which isn't a ton, except like I said, there's actually a lot of gold. I'm surprised you actually can't see any of it hidden down here underneath the ship itself. And here I'm just gonna show you kind of how the cannons move back and forth. You kind of see them there. Like I said before, we are gonna have these anchor builds, you know, for the front and the back, and you can kind of store them in various ways here at the front of the ship before releasing them down. And I like how the chain that holds them kind of continues up here to the ship itself. Now, I've definitely heard mixed reviews about the flags and how these are used on the ship. I think they work quite well personally. You know, they're easy, they're nice, doesn't take away from the build too much, and I think they generally capture the look and feel of the ship, especially considering the price point the ship was already at. I mean, brick-built sales would have just thrown this way too high, higher than would be necessary for sure. And I like that there's gonna be some, you know, holes in some of those sales as well. And in general, I was really happy with the build techniques used to hold up the sails. I think the masts look really nice. There's some areas for minifigures to stand, of course, but they're very sturdy the way that they're put together, which is great because my experience with many of these is from the 2005 Lego Harry Potter Durmstrang ship, and those were not sturdy. In fact, you kind of hit them and the whole thing falls apart. All in all, there's just lots of opportunities to display minifigures in different parts of the ship for, you know, Captain Jack Sparrow's Black Pearl. And while I know the price of this set has definitely been a point of contention ever since it was leaked and the price point was leaked, I just think it was a really fun build. I really enjoyed this. It might be my favorite build so far of 2025. This obviously isn't quite as beautiful as Rivendell, but my top 3 sets right now in terms of the building process, I think have been Rivendell, the Red Dragon's Tail, and I think, you know, Captain Jack Sparrow's ship, or this Black Pearl set, comes in that top 3. It was just a really fun build. It was one of those builds that I was unhappy when I was finished with it because I wanted more, right? I wanted to be able to keep going. So it's a really fun set. I kind of put the minifigures on the ship here to kind of see the scaling of just how massive this is. You know, I put some characters further back, some higher up. You can just see there's just a ton of room. It's just a huge set. And just for any Harry Potter fans, we're gonna just quickly look at it in comparison to the Durmstrang. You know, of course, here from the back, you can really just see how wide, like I said, 16 studs across is really massive. I mean, that's the height of just over 3 minifigures. You know, similarly looking here at the front, it is really unmatched in just terms of how massive it is. And it is proving difficult to get an aerial shot, but we're gonna do our best kind of just to get above the Black Pearl here, just so you can see how kind of massive it is from the front all the way to the back. Like I said, just a really massive and fun set. And while I realistically would not be able to buy all of the Pirates of the Caribbean sets in this scale, I'm really happy they chose to kind of go all out here for the Black Pearl. As to me, it's probably the most recognizable, at least by name, but probably also what it looks like of the ships that we see in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this Pirates of the Caribbean Jack Sparrow's ship set. Obviously, it is a high price point, but like I said, it really felt like a good value. For me, I did get both of the gift with purchases, Jack Sparrow's compass, as well as the Sonic the Hedgehog Sega Genesis controller. But like I said, I sold those for about $100, and so this brought the price point down to about $280 after profit, which definitely worth it for that price point, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated with LEGO leaks, rumors, news, and reviews, hit the subscribe button down below. But I will see you all next time. Thank you.